Before I begin, I just want to let you guys know that I started a new channel in addition to this one, all about indie DIY creativity on the web, how to do it, how to stay motivated, and technical things like reviews and tips and tricks. So if you want to check that out, check the link right here to go to my new YouTube channel, Rebel Pixels. On to the review. So, Arkham Knight is coming out soon, right? It is soon, right? I saw ads at Best Buy, so I'm assuming it's got to be out soon. Anyways, Arkham Asylum and Arkham City were both fantastic games that have set the bar high for developer Rocksteady's final installment in the trilogy, Arkham Knight. But hold on, you say, isn't Knight the fourth Arkham game? How can you call it a trilogy? This is where things get interesting. Arkham Origins is the third game in the now legendary Batman Arkham series, but it's not Rocksteady's third game in the series. After Arkham City, Rocksteady wanted to take a few years and develop their final Batman game exclusively for, at the time, next-gen consoles, so they could create without the constraints of dealing with nearly decade-old hardware. Publisher Warner Bros. Games agreed, but knew that 3+ years without a new Batman game was too long to not milk that cash cow, so they unleashed a new developer, WB Games Montreal, to create a prequel to the Arkham series to be released in the interim. Hence Arkham Origins, the game we're going to be talking about today. The story of Arkham Origins is pretty straightforward. It's Christmas Eve, and the Black Mask has escaped from Blackgate Prison and has put a $50 million bounty on a still relatively green Batman's head, bringing in 8 of the top assassins to collect on a 2-year active vigilante. You'll be taken to the streets of Gotham, an open world much like Arkham City, to track down the assassins, stop Black Mask, and fight both the criminals of Gotham's underworld as well as the crooked cops of the GCPD. Origins doesn't stray too far from the formula set up in Asylum and City. The core gameplay is divided up into 2 distinct segments. The vigilante melee beat-em-up combat on the streets of Gotham using the brilliant free-flow combat system, allowing Batman to chain entire fights against dozens of enemies into one endless combo of strikes, counters, and special takedowns, and the Predator segments, which usually take place in a single room, and puts Batman against a smaller group of heavily armed enemies, where straight-up fisticuffs would be suicide, instead forcing you to use stealth, gadgets, and fear to silently pick off foes one by one. Both scenarios are incredibly fun and really capture what makes Batman such a great character. But of course, anyone who has played the previous Arkham games already knows this. It's nothing new. So what does Arkham Origins bring to the table that differentiates itself from its predecessors? Not too much, and that's probably the biggest complaint one could levy against this game. While it does everything that made Arkham City so great, with a multitude of gadgets, fantastic combat, and a large open-world chunk of Gotham to play in, it's kind of hard to ignore that the majority of the map is recycled from Arkham City, and all the gadgets are either completely or functionally identical to what you unlocked in the previous game. The degrees of which this will bother you will come largely from how long it's been since you last played your Arkham games. For me, it's been almost 4 years, so everything felt fresh enough, but I walked into Origins still pretty familiar with what I was doing. However, in terms of complaints, more of a good thing is really hard to get too bent out of shape over, and when you take into consideration that this isn't a Rocksteady project, but a corporate-mandated stopgap from a completely different developer, what would you expect them to do? They had no real choice but to play it safe because it's a formula they didn't create, so they aren't as well versed with its nuances. Messing with it too much could completely alter the feel that the Arkham series is known for. The only real changes Origins brings to the table are threefold. The shock gloves, for vigilante combat, electrified gauntlets that charge as you fight and can be triggered to deal more damage and break through enemies' defenses, an add-on for the remote grapple that lets you take down up to 3 enemies in a Predator encounter from a distance, and crime scene investigations, where Batman can solve various crimes throughout Gotham by examining evidence in first person with detective vision, and then recreate the crimes using augmented reality to find more clues. The combat gadgets are pretty overpowered, the shock gloves in particular taking a lot of the strategy out of combat, no longer having to work around defenses of the more challenging foes, and allowing you to beat down everyone equally for about 30 seconds until the gloves lose their charge. And the remote grapple upgrade usually lets you take out anywhere from a third to half of a Predator encounter with just a full pulse of a shoulder trigger. And to the hardcore gamers, this might be a serious slight against this game. But for people like me, who play games to, have fun, I think they will love these new gadgets because they are a pleasure to use. The shock gauntlets in particular are a welcome addition late game, when an overrun Blackgate will unleash upwards of 20 baddies on you simultaneously, including massive brutes, guys with shields, guns, and ninjas that can counter your attacks. Similarly, the ability to tie up an armored thug in a predator encounter from across the room and then watch the rest of the guys freak out over it is insanely satisfying. Crime scenes are a bit more of a mixed bag. While visually it's quite pleasing to be able to rewind and fast forward the events of a crime scene and look for clues, the actual mechanics of looking for clues consist solely of finding the next flashing icon and holding down the X button to make the next one appear. It's a cool concept, marred by far too little interaction in its implementation. One other minor annoyance that can quickly become grating is that sometimes free-flow combat doesn't completely work, with auto-target botching a lock here and there, or special takedowns failing to find a body. In isolation, this doesn't sound like that big of an issue, but when certain unlockables and valuable XP is based on keeping combos going and fulfilling specific conditions in a fight, having an otherwise flawless skirmish be ruined by something out of your control is infuriating. There is something missing from Origins compared to the previous Batman games, and depending on your preferences, it might be a big one. Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy. Neither reprised their roles as the Joker and Batman respectively here, and to fans of Batman the Animated Series and the DCAU in general like myself, this is a huge loss, as these two are the characters in my mind. I'd assume their absence is due to them working on Arkham Knight with Rocksteady though. The stand-ins for both in Origin do well enough though, the Joker pulling off a far more convincing Hamill than Batman's Conroy, but neither performance is what I would call bad. There's a lot to do in Gotham besides the main storyline of chasing down Black Mask and the Joker. With Mask having brought in 8 assassins, you'll have to take them all down. And that combined with the numerous Enigma data caches and monitoring networks to take care of, provide a lot to do after the credits roll, and that's not even taking into consideration New Game Plus, or the multitude of ranked challenge maps to unlock. Origins packs in a lot of content for those who want 100% it. Overall, despite mostly playing it safe, Origins stands up pretty well compared to the previous 2 entries in this series. To those who may have skipped over it due to its rather lukewarm reception when it first came out and just decided to wait for Arkham Knight, I'd say it's worth reconsidering. I don't regret my time with the game. So that's all I got for you guys. My name is Tommy Oliver, and I talk about nerd stuff on a weekly basis here on this channel. If this is your first time here, be sure to like this video if you liked it, give it a thumbs down if you thought it sucked, and tell me why in the comments so I can make it better. So have you played Arkham Origins? What did you think about it compared to Arkham City and Arkham Asylum? Just as good? Better? Worse? How do you think it's going to compare to the upcoming Arkham Knight, which looks crazy good? Let me know in the comments below. Till next time, I'm Tommy Oliver, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.